This is Movers and Shakers, where we interview the upcoming generation of make it happen multifamily investors to share their story.
Welcome to the Movers and Shakers podcast. My name is Gino Barbaro, co-founder of Jake and Gino, multifamily investor, educator, father, mentor, and I am joined by a special guest today, my co-host, Josh Roos. And Josh, how are you doing today?
Gino, doing well. Very excited to share my story. I know at the age of 30, there's a lot of trials and tribulations, but I think it's a story that the listeners a lot of them will resonate with and can hopefully learn and grow from. How are you doing, Gino?
I'm doing good. I want to share your bio with everyone. After turning the first home he purchased into a rental home when moving across country, Josh saw the power of cash owning assets. To further get his foot in the door, he joined up with one of the nation's largest real estate investing education companies, where he became passionate about helping others while furthering his own investing career. After realizing the power of multifamily, he joined the Jake and Gino team to grow his portfolio in multifamily while expanding the Jake and Gino community. Currently, Mr. Roosen owns 328 units. I like to say welcome to the show, but you've already been on, bro. So how's it going?
Man, going well. So look, guys, I mean, ultimately, when you hear that, you know, it's at the age of 30, it sounds like good results, but trust me, I didn't start out that way. And there's a lot of lessons learned throughout my story that hopefully you guys can apply in your life and learn through my mistakes rather than making them yourself.
So Josh, the first question that I have for you is, how did you discover entrepreneurship?
That's a great question. So like many, I got the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad. My aunt gave it to me. She's in real estate. I was in 8th grade and I read the book, but I think I was at an age where I really wasn't ready for the message. So I read it, it planted a seed and kept going from there.
So what seed did it plant?
I think there was I really like the idea of, the parable there of, having money work for you and kind of that story and that journey. And actually it really fired me up. So that during that time when I read it, I had a buddy and I grew up in Michigan. So we started shoveling snow, going to knock people's doors. We're like, all right, we're going to go out there and, hustle and things like that. And I quickly learned that was really hard and we weren't making what we wanted. It was cold. And so I just kind of, the idea went dormant from there.
The dream died. It didn't last very long, the dream. So you're going through high school. Talk about high school. When you got out of high school, what did you go to college? What did you want to become when you grew up?
Yeah, so great question. I go to high school and I get really into biology. I get really into working out. And so I decided I liked health. I wanted to be a doctor. So I go to college. I'm studying pre-professional biology with a chemistry minor. And if you want to go to medical school, you have to have experience in the industry, right? So I'm working for an orthopedic surgeon. And actually, this guy was one of my first mentors in life. And he comes home one day and I'm getting ready, actually, so the year before I graduate, studying to take the MCAT. And he's like, don't do it. You're crazy. I wouldn't let my kids do it. And I'm just like so confused. So he continues to explain on, and he's like, look, back in the 90s, I used to make 7 figures. Now I'm lucky if I make half that. And I'm over here like, this guy's complaining about making $500,000 a year, like rich people problems, right? And so he continues to go on from there. And he's like, look, how much debt do you have from undergrad? And I'm like, I got about 70,000 at the time. He's like, all right, look, you're going to accrue interest. You have a year left of school. You're going to go to medical school, residency, and fellowship. You're going to be 30 years old and probably about $500,000 in debt by the time you graduate. And so I'm like, okay, but you make good money. You can pay it off quickly. And he's like, no, you don't get it. I predict by the time you graduate med school, physician reimbursements will be between $100,000 and $200,000 a year. You're going to have to live in a 1-bedroom apartment for a decade just to get out from under that debt. So at that point, that dream died as well. And it kind of scared me out of going to medical school.
And when you heard that, what did you think to yourself? I mean, that must have rocked your world. Your paradigm must have been completely changed, shifted, huh?
Yeah. So at the time, I just dropped $1,200 on a MCAT prep course through Kaplan, and that was a significant portion of the capital I had. And then also on top of that, I had a few years invested in school and some serious debt racked up. So I was in shock, right? I felt like my world was falling on me, but at the same time, I knew that I still had to do something. So I was like, all right, what do I do then? And I asked that doctor, and he's like, go into business. I make more money from my investments than I do being a doctor. Mm-hmm. So I finish off school, I move home, I go to my parents' house. And at this time, I'm pretty limited in resources. And I'm thinking, what can I do and get into business that I can start making some money with the very limited capital I have? So I'm looking at things like, hey, can I start a car detailing business? I always love taking care of my stuff. Or I ended up falling into home healthcare. So I saw that there was a silver tsunami coming, and I'm like, this is something I can definitely do. It's scalable, doesn't take a lot of capital. Well, I give it a go, and I start going to Starbucks and Panera every day for 6 months. And at the end of 6 months, I got a website, I have business cards, I have brochures, I have an LLC, I have a Google Voice number. But my parents were like, Josh, you're crazy. You haven't generated a penny in revenue. You got to get a job or we're going to kick you out. So the plan wasn't going very well.
So Josh, there's so many learning lessons for me now that I've learned you, and now that I've become really intimate with you and really learned your journey. The first thing is you have all of these things, right? But what don't you have?
Any results?
That's the first thing. You don't have any clients either, right?
Yeah.
That's the second thing. So everybody out there, Josh took massive action, but I think Josh was taking the wrong kind of action because he didn't know business yet, right? He didn't know how to conduct business. My mantra was always commit and then figure it out. Josh committed, but he was trying to get everything in order. He was trying to make his website look great. He was trying to get business cards, but I don't think he knew how to conduct business. I don't know how he knew how to get clients out there. So what was that first learning lesson for you when you got down after 6 months and your mom's like, Josh, here are your bags, get packing?
Yeah, I thought it was super easy, right? I thought it was like, if you build it, they will come. But I didn't know the difference between activity and accomplishment. So it's very important in your journey of entrepreneurship in whatever field you take to do the right steps in the right order. So that way you end up getting results. Because I was doing a lot of action, but no results were coming. So I think that's why a lot of people who take any entrepreneurship journey end up throwing in the towel and giving up, because it's easy to take steps, but are you going to take the steps that are going to build the business, generate revenue, and actually move the needle?
Josh, can I mention and just discuss my story that really relates to what your story is when I was at the restaurant?
Would love that.
So for me, I was stuck in the kitchen and activity was really hard all day. It was hard work, but I was doing jobs like peeling shrimp, cutting chickens, washing dishes. That's 10, 12, tops $15 an hour work. But to me, I felt like I was accomplishing something. And that's the problem. I was accomplishing minimum wage work. I wasn't accomplishing larger tasks. And that's how I was trained. Now, 30 years ago, that might have been great. But in today's economy, you need to leverage other people's time and other people's resources to do that. And I want everyone to really write this down. Are you doing activity versus accomplishment? That's really important. Are you busy all day, but you're not really accomplishing anything? Go back and listen to Josh's story. He went to Panera for 6 months. I mean, if I went to Panera for 6 months, I could probably have 3 books written every day, right? So you're really being active. And he's getting his website and he's getting his business cards and he thinks he's doing something, but what is he truly accomplishing? I want everyone out there just to stop and think for a second. All the activity that you're doing throughout the day, what are you accomplishing through that activity? And that might be a wake-up call for you. It actually was for me at the restaurant. Once I stopped one day and I've got at the dish rack and I've got the plates there and I'm hosing down the plates to put into the dish machine, my brother walks in from a barbecue that he was doing all day. He was happy, having a great time. And I look around and I turn to him. I say, I'm doing this crappy work here while you're really having a great time. That really bothered me. And that's when it hit me. And I wish I had Josh back then before that incident, that activity that I was doing, and I was accomplishing nothing. I felt like I was doing a lot. So I want everyone to write that down, activity versus accomplishment. And I think the next thing is revenue generating tasks. Are you doing tasks that are generating revenue? Or are you doing tasks to stay busy? Business cards are great. You need them, but you can get somebody else to do business cards. A website, have somebody else build you a website, right? What do you think about that, Josh?
Yeah, I love it. At first I had a lot of pride in that I was doing everything. I was meticulous about it. It looked good. But what I really realize now and where I'm at in the journey is I can hire people at very affordable rates to do a better job. And I can spend my time on the highest and best use of that time. And really at that point, I didn't really realize the time value or the value of time there. That was something I had to learn a little bit later in my journey as well. So that's, you bring up a good point though.
So time is worth more, correct? In the beginning, You must have had the I'm a mentality, correct? I'm a do this and I'm a do that when you first start off on your entrepreneurial journey. And it's tough because we have to learn certain things. But after a while, you're going to realize that your time is well spent doing other tasks that generate revenue. So let's move on. So your mom is about to kick you out of the house. What's next?
Yeah. So you graduate school in Michigan. It's like March, April. 6 months later, we're coming on Easter, or no, I'm sorry, Thanksgiving. And we actually had Thanksgiving at my aunt's house, the same one who gave me Rich Dad Poor Dad. And in my circle, she was one of the more successful people. So very nice house, very beautiful cars, paid for her kids' college, everything like that. And she was in real estate. And so as we're there, she's like, "Hey, Josh, have you ever considered real estate?" And I'm kind of down in the dumps, right? I'm in a tough spot financially and in a rock and a hard place. What do? I got to get a job. And I'm like, "Well, are you going to put me up and I'll come build this real estate business?" And she's like, "Nah." So the idea stuck though. And I was like, all right, clearly she has results and that's what I wanted. So I started looking at how I could get into real estate. And that's how I found a real estate investing education company. It was in San Diego. So I was like, all right, I get to move to an awesome city, beautiful weather, and jokes on these guys, they're going to teach me real estate investing while I'm working for them and getting paid because they encouraged entrepreneurship, being an entrepreneur and what they teach. So I take the leap, and I've never done a fix and flip. I've never done a wholesale, being very transparent. That was the goal. But instead, what I ended up doing was climbing the corporate ladder, right? Working hard to build their business. Because at first, the mindset was, listen, I want to seek to serve and make sure I'm adding massive value. And I put my goals on the back burner to learning how to really master my craft there.
Josh, what were the challenges of leaving home and going out to a different state and starting a whole entire new career?
Yeah, there was a lot of risk in that, but here's the thing, right? At that point, there was no lower I could really go. I had a car that had 250,000 miles on it. I had less than $1,000 to my name. And so for me, it was leaving home. It was opportunity. It was a fresh start. And really, when I look at something like that, each time you move, you can reinvent yourself, right? Your habits, what you do, where you live, who your friends are, and really who you are as a person. And at that point, I was destined to be like, all right, look, I'm going to be the best I can and make this happen. And I was really fortunate to surround myself with a really good group at where I was at.
So that's great. What were the learning lessons from the job? Because there must have been a lot. Because I know you got into sales, you started crushing sales, the corporate ladder, the corporate grind must have been getting to you. But ultimately, you want to become an investor. So what were those learning lessons that you took away from the job?
Yeah, so I spent about 2 years with that company, and what I had learned was at one point I had this really middle class mentality, and I had took the I'm a mentality to my personal life. So at one point, one of the owners of the company was walking by me, and me and another coworker were talking about. I was like, "Oh man, this is so hard. I have all this work to do and all this stuff to do at home." And he's like, "Dude, hire it out. Get someone to clean the house. Get someone to do your laundry. Get someone to meal prep for you. All of this." And in my mind, thinking about my parents, they're like, "Why would you pay someone if my hands work and I can do it myself?" And so the owner walks by and he's hearing this and he has me write down MWA. And I'm like, "What is this guy doing?" And he's like, "All right, draw a circle around it and a line through it." And he's like, "This is minimum wage activities. Anytime you find yourself doing something you can pay someone 15 an hour or less to do, you're going to from now on hire it out. Your time is worth more." And this was a really hard concept for me to grasp. But the way it really started to make sense was, okay, imagine you can make $75 an hour in your business and you can pay someone 15 an hour to clean your house. Well, all of a sudden, if I can work 1 hour in my business, I can pay for someone to do 5 hours of cleaning at my house. Now, all of a sudden, I'm net positive 4 hours. And I can use that to spend more time in my business. I can use it to do things with people I care about and activities I love. So at that point, that's when my income started really climbing to multiple six figures.
Mm-hmm.
But also another lesson there, I was working 65 plus hours a week. It was a high stress, high pressure job. And I loved what I was doing. Don't get me wrong. But that grind was pretty taxing. So, towards the end of it, I realized I was climbing the wrong ladder. I hit a ceiling financially. And although I was doing well and making more money than I ever hoped to, it was really scary to be peaked out in my mid 20s. And that grind that I was on, I realized that I wasn't sustainable. It was very hard. And so at that point, I started looking at what's next. There's got to be a better way to scale this thing and make things happen.
So there's a lot of lessons there, everybody. I'm going to go back and just recap a few of those lessons. Remember, number one was activity versus accomplishment. Number two is time is worth more. Number three, MWA. It sounds like a rap group almost, but it's minimum wage activity. That's really important. And for me, I'm going to extrapolate a couple more lessons from what Josh said. It's not what you make, it's what you keep. Josh, where were you living at the time?
Oh man, that's great. San Diego. So tax was insane over there in the cost of living. I was literally paying $13.50 for a 400 square foot apartment. It was like a C-class apartment. And I mean, it was hard to save money there. And that didn't include any utilities, internet, anything like that. Compared to here in Knoxville, it's hard to find something to rent for $13.50. You're getting the best of the best.
So Josh says that he has a middle class mentality, and he really doesn't. From one respect, I know that when Josh makes more money, he's not going out there and buying more assets, depreciating assets like a home and like a car. Whereas the average person, when they get those pay raises, they're looking to go buy something different, right? So Josh is living a frugal life. What did you want to invest in ultimately? You were looking to do single families, and how did you get on the multifamily trail?
Yeah. So at first my goal was, so when I was in Michigan, I bought a house right before I left. And at that point I turned that into a rental, right? So I was paying $700 a month. It was a $102,000 house I bought, FHA loan. And I rented a buddy in there. I put him in there for about $1,200 a month. And so he was a buddy from high school. I didn't need property management. I could trust him. So I'm sitting there cash flowing $500 a month, and he's paying down the mortgage. There's depreciation and it's appreciating. So I'm like, all right, this isn't so bad. I'll do more of these. Well, in California, I was like, I'm going to start buying these turnkey rentals through companies like Memphis Invest, Jacksonville Wealth Builders. And what I realized was I'd have to save up about $30,000 a year to be able to buy one of these, and I'd add a couple $100 a month in income. The deal that I had in my house back home was a home run, right? It's hard to find something like that. And that was a rare find. I got very lucky with that. And so in my current position, it would have taken me over a decade to become financially free. And I was at the level of stress and pressure, I thought I was going to spontaneously combust keeping that up. So I was like, all right, I need to figure out a better way. So a buddy of mine, and we were really good at sales. That's what we were doing in the company we were with before. And so we started saying, all right, look, let's open a sales training company. This is a way where we can get paid for the value we bring and ultimately crush it and then build a business around it. And so we found the person that we knew was the biggest at sales. And at the time, it was Grant Cardone. So my buddy goes and buys an hour one-on-one with Grant Cardone for $7,500. So he flies from San Diego to Miami, sits down with Grant, and Grant says, hey son, when I was your age, I wish I would have gotten into multifamily real estate instead of sales training. I'd be a billionaire instead of a millionaire. The only question is how many times over. So that's a super bold statement, but Grant's a really bold dude. So it had some credibility. So my buddy flies back from Florida to California, and we sit with the owner of the company that we were working at. And he says, hey, independently, I wish I would have skipped residential and went straight to commercial. So now we had two 9-figure net worth individuals telling us that this was the route to go. And at that point, we were all in on making multifamily happen.
So how did you make it happen ultimately?
So we started at Podcast and YouTube University. Okay. So I'm over here piecing together all the knowledge I could. And it really, telling the story now, it brings me back to, I'm taking the same approach that I took when I tried to build the home healthcare company. So we're consuming it. And then actually my boss's boss had Wheelbarrow Profits on his desk. And I'm huge on mentorship, right? If someone has the results I want and the book's good enough for him, it's good enough for me. So we order the book, read it. And my buddy at the time, after reading it, actually reaches out to you, Gino, and says, hey, look, guys, I want to help you grow and scale your multifamily real estate investing education business. Like, I'm in that right now. I can add a ton of value. Teach me how to build a multifamily business and we'll make it happen. And at the time, you guys were like, I don't know if I'm ready to take someone on. And so my buddy was so convicted to get into multifamily real estate, he quit his job and he moved to Atlanta with no job, just full-time to build this real estate investing business. And then you guys had reached back out to him and said, hey, we're looking at taking someone on. Are you still available? And he's like, I don't know if I can do it, but I got someone who'd be a good fit. And you put them in touch with, you guys in touch with me. And I got into a real inflection point in my life here. So I have an opportunity to take a leap. But ultimately, there's some risk in the leap, right? I had a stable career position over here with a very strong multiple 6-figure income, where here it definitely would have been a pay cut initially. And so I had a lot of reflection, and I have a leadership coach I have worked with and I still work with. And what he really helped draw out of me that was the certainty of the outcome, if I stayed where I was at, was way, way scarier than taking a risk and a chance to build something that could accomplish my goals way, way quicker. So with that reflection, I ultimately made the leap. March 6th of 2018 is when I flew from San Diego to St. Augustine, Florida to begin working with you guys.
So say that again, the certainty of outcome
was scarier than taking a leap and a chance, right? So, most people, when they're in a job, the reflection is, hey, it's scary to go build my business. Well, what was scary to me was not taking a chance, because what I'm doing is betting on me, right? And I know that I'm going to put in the work. I know I'm going to grind, and I know I'm going to make it happen, right? It's not if, it's when.
That really resonates with me, because when I was at the restaurant, my certainty of outcome being at the restaurant was it was soul sucking. I could probably pay myself. I could probably make a decent living, but I was just stuck and I hated it. So the risk of doing that was greater than actually going out there and trying to build a multifamily portfolio. So I think we have very similar takes on that, don't you think?
Yeah, I agree. And that's why you and I took the chance, made things happen. And this is what I really want to get out to the listeners. Look at where you're at. Look at the position and the timing we're now in the economy. A lot of jobs are getting laid off. As a business owner, you get paid based on what the work you put in and making it happen. And your results are direct in proportion to your skill level and the action you take, right? Education times action equals results. So I would question and I would challenge someone who says the job is the way to go and it's secure and everything like that, because it can be, but it's just lulling you into trading time for money and for a paycheck.
So Josh, what's really ironic is, let's say you come to Jake and Gino and you're here for 3 months and you hate it. You can always go back to your former job, right? And it's the same thing with me. If I had left the restaurant, I could always go back and open another restaurant or go back into the restaurant that I had. So I think it's that fear of the unknown is more scarier. And I would challenge everybody out there, hope. Think about hope. Think about what you can actually start building. And you don't have to, when you're getting into multifamily, have to go in all at 100%. You start slowly, like Josh did with education. You're taking education and then ultimately start taking action. And then between education and action, you are ultimately going to get the results. But what Josh did was he aligned himself with somebody who was in the space. He learned from somebody in the space and started taking that massive action. So you get here to Jake and Gino in 2016 or 2018? 2018. Time's flying, Josh. Whew. So you're here in 2018. What did it feel like just being here somewhere new? So this is the third state in 3 years.
Yeah, so 2016, I moved to San Diego, and then 2018, I moved to Florida. And I wake up, the first couple of days, it's a little surreal, right? So just so everyone knows, I didn't have a place secure to live because I was looking at one, and the guy was like, I'm not going to let you sign the lease until you come check it out. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to book a hotel for the first 5 days. And I get there, and I'm like, all right, dude, look, I told you I like the place. Let me sign it. And so I'm getting ready to sign the lease for this place. And then I sign it. I give him permission to pull my credit. And the guy calls me back an hour later. Hey, sorry, the owner said he's got someone who wants to see this place. And I'm like, or it's his friend, so he's gonna give it to him. And I'm like crushed, right? So now I'm trying to find a place to live and scrambling and things like that. And really, I'm like, oh man, what did I do, right? Because now it became real. And so I hit a point where I was like, oh man, is this the right move? Kind of fear and doubt creeps in when you first make the leap. So my buddy who was living in Atlanta, Georgia, drives down and he's like, hey man, look, you're freaking out. So he comes and stays a week with me. Now we're up to right before Easter. So about this time 2 years ago. And the moment I knew I made the right choice was when you invited Dylan and I over for Easter dinner. And at that moment, I knew you cared for me and I could trust you. And I went all in and didn't look back since.
So let's talk about that little apartment fiasco. How could you have avoided that? What happened with that thing, dude? That brings up memories to me. I remember that happening too.
Yeah. So I found a place I wanted to live in, and I was in San Diego. It was super close to downtown, and I loved being. It was in St. Augustine, and while I was in San Diego, I found it, and I was like, all right, I can walk to the office the guys have downtown. I really love stuff like that, and the guy wouldn't let me sign a lease until I was in there to view it. And I'm like, dude, can I put a deposit down? How can I reserve my spot? And he's like, no, I'll hold it for you. Everything like that. And really with that one, I was blindsided. I never could have predicted that thing that was for lease for 4 months before I came would lease up, and the owner all of a sudden have his friend that wants to live in there. But that just kind of left me scrambling to find another place and living out of a hotel for like a week when I first moved there.
I remember that. So after the Easter dinner, I remember we had lamb, potatoes, asparagus, mint jelly. It was really good, really good. I'm looking forward to it this year also. We have Easter dinner, and I remember going back, and we really didn't have a business. We had products, we had stuff all over the place. What were the challenges that you faced when you joined?
Yeah, so let's talk about before I made the leap, right? We talked about the white glove service of multifamily investing was kind of the service vision we were seeking to implement at that time. And when we were first here, it was a training center, and we just started the weekly class, and it was also a Facebook group. But the goal here, and what I really seek out of my life and yours is, you're very similar, is impact. Right? How can I change the outcome of someone's life? And I truly believe there's a lack of financial education out there. I always wish I knew what I knew now 10 years ago. So I think that you can really make a difference, right? We're not Coca-Cola selling sugar water over here. So I wanted to, create an ecosystem, and you as well, right? Of something where if someone puts in the work, they have everything needed to go out there and build this business. So a lot of it, I was in a company that was doing it at a high level, but it's really hard to reverse engineer it. And a few lessons I learned with this is Gino, if it was you and I for the longest time, just kind of, making it happen and plugging and chugging away. And I always thought as soon as we can afford to hire employees, I'm just going to be relaxing on the beach, easy street. But what I realized is leadership's not as easy as I thought. Right. And then the other thing is too, is I have this mindset where like, I'm going to add maximum value and take as many tasks on as I can, where a true definition of a leader is being able to duplicate themselves in other people, right? So it's do, document, delegate. And as one person, I can only do so much. So those were definitely challenges I learned in growing and scaling this business with you.
So let's mention those three again. Number one is to do. You need to do something because you need to learn how to do it. Number two is to document it. What have you actually done about it, right? And the third one is to actually delegate it out. That third piece is very hard for an entrepreneur because it's all about the I'm a mentality. I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And there's three things when building a business, right? It's all about the people, it's all about the systems, and it's all about the culture. Now, Josh and I knew what kind of culture we wanted because when Josh moved here, the first weekend he moved here, I actually was moving my house. I was living in a house, and I bought the house across the street. And there were 96 steps between both houses, and it's on a Sunday. And Josh is like, "Yeah, come over. I'll help you move." I'm like, saying to my wife, Julia, I don't want to bother Josh. So Josh comes over. He's playing with the kids, and thank the Lord that he came over because it took us the whole day, even with a moving company, to move all of that furniture. And then from there, I was like, this guy's going to make it happen. This guy is going to put in the work. He's great. He's great with the kids. He loves the vision. But I remember moving that day. It stuck. And for us, in the beginning, when you get into multifamily or into any venture, you're going to have to do it, you figure it out, do it yourself. But as you're doing it, please document everything you're doing. And then as you're documenting it, you can at one point you're going to be able to hire people, and that's when you can start delegating it out. So Josh and I were alone for about 18 months, just winging it, just putting this thing together. And it was a lot of fun. What other learning lessons did you have as we were, growing Jake and Gino?
Well, yeah, that's a good one, right? So I think this is an overall general business lesson, right? So when you're getting into anything, success leaves clues. So in school, if I'm cheating off the smartest person, or if I'm copying, it's considered cheating. In business, it's considered smart, right? So what I've learned is I'm the best copycat I know. So I find someone that has the results that I want, that they're practicing it in today's market, and then they've created other successful people. And then I R&D, right? Not research and development, but rip off and duplicate. So that's an easy way to shortcut success because, Gino, like we talked about earlier, time is your most valuable asset, right? You want more money, go learn a skill set. You can have unlimited money out there, but you want more time. Sorry, no can do. It's all ending for us 1 second at a time. So that way, you can shortcut and compress time to be able to create results. That ultimately is something that's very impactful, right? And we've done that here. We brought in Chris Voss the other day to teach to our coaches. We've hired Petra coaches to be able to help us grow and scale the business, right? Because we know ultimately that that's going to help take us further faster. It's going to make us better. And the better we are, and putting money where our mouth is, right? Investing in coaching, and coaching is ultimately what we offer at the end of the day. And that's very important to me. And I think those are really good business lessons as well.
So practice what you preach is what you're saying. I think
Yeah.
that's really important. I think for us, and I was coached back in 2008, 2009. I used two different coaching programs to learn about multifamily. And then ultimately back in 2015, I went and became a certified life coach because I wanted the personal development. And every step of the way, as my growth has gotten in my life, I've used coaches every step of the way. And you get to a certain point and you need to grow. And I think coaching is an awesome lever to use that. Now, core values. Can you touch on core values? I mean, you can talk about our core values, Jake and Gino, but for the listeners out there, let's talk why core values are so important for a company.
Yeah, that's good. So real quick, for those who don't know, our core values are people first, growth mindset, unwavering ethics, extreme ownership, and make it happen. So the importance of core values is these are guiding principles. If you compare that to quote unquote rules, rules are, people don't like rules. They're restrictive. You're bound by them. But at the same time, core values can apply to any situation. And if you operate within those as an operating system, you're going to create what success looks like for the company. And then if you celebrate those that are operating within those core principles or core values, that's when you're really going to create culture within a community. And one thing that I really like here is a lot of our students talk about the culture we have. Well, that starts in the inside out and from the top down. So if you can create that and instill that and hire based on those, I really think it's very key as you grow and scale an organization to really make sure it's going in the right direction.
Josh, that's an awesome answer. I love that. Let's take a quick time out to hear from our sponsors, and we'll continue the core value discussion on the other side.
Gino, I know a lot of our listeners are wanting to take their multifamily investing business to the next level. I know that you've been hard at work helping Jake and Gino students do just that using our framework. Can you explain to the listeners how they can get our help?
Guys, we've been hard at work growing our community of like-minded investors, and the results of our members has been nothing short of incredible. We're looking to grow this amazing group. What we're looking for is those who want to follow our proprietary framework that we've created. Buy right, manage right, and finance right. Leverage our connections, education, and mentorship as ways to take your business to the next level.
So if you're interested in finding out more about how you can become a part of our amazing community, apply to work with us at jakeandgino.com/apply.
So Joshua, when we got here, we really didn't have core values. We didn't have anything documented out. And everyone thinks that, people first. What does that mean? What do you say to people that don't have core values and don't have a mission statement?
Yeah, so it's easy to get lost in the day-to-day grind and not the bigger picture of why you're doing things, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so for us, our mission statement is to improve the lives of others by creating communities that allow people to become the best version of themselves. So a lot of times, and even to the core values, right? And I'll give you examples. There's late nights sometimes where I get emails or I get texts and I get calls, and there's days where I'm honestly, I'm spent, right? I put in all I could. And then I realize people first, right? Am I operating in alignment with that? And I say, okay, can I go above and beyond, right? And those small differences make big results. So companies that don't have them, a lot of times it's easy to get lost in the day-to-day grind. And it's not having that in the back of the mind of why you're doing this and what success looks like in the company.
Mm-hmm. I love that, Josh. Anyone out there looking to get into multifamily, what's your best advice for somebody trying to get out there? Maybe they can emulate your story.
Yeah. So the first thing I would do is really make sure that you're committed to this vehicle, right? Multifamily is a marathon, not a sprint. It doesn't happen overnight. So there is a lot of hard work and there's a learning curve. So you don't want to spend 3, 4, 5 months learning this and then all of a sudden pivot because you're not going to get the results. The entrepreneurship journey, the success curve is like a hockey stick, slow, 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 and then explodes up. So I would make sure that you're committed to this vehicle. The next thing I would do is, like I said, rip off and duplicate. Find someone that has the results that you want, that they're practicing it in today's market, and then that they've been able to replicate success with other people, and that like, and trust them. One of my favorite quotes is a John Maxwell quote, and it's, no one cares how much you know until they know how much you care. And at that point, their time is very, very valuable, right? Put some skin in the game, invest in yourself, and commit fully to making it happen. And then that's a recipe for success right there.
I love that. So what's your next step in multifamily?
Yeah, as we grow and scale. So currently right now, I love, we just closed on a deal 2 months ago that we took down with in-house capital. So continued this year, I want to close on 2 more deals. I love the tax benefits of it and just continue to scale my passive income, right? I want to hit a point where I'm financially independent, and ultimately working from a point of confidence, knowing I don't have to, right? So I can take a month and travel with my family when I have one, or be the kindergarten room dad or coach Little League. And that's ultimately the goal that this vehicle is going to bring me to.
I love that. So what is your favorite book?
So 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, I think, is a really important book. That book as a whole served to made me more effective. And it almost is an operating manual as a human to get more done, and just grow as a person, right? Because ultimately you may find the right vehicle, but if you're not efficient as a human, you're going to have a lot harder time creating success.
Best habit.
Ooh. I think for me, gratitude journaling, right? It's definitely something that helps frame your mindset, and your mindset is the lens in which you view the world through.
So if I can add to that, Josh's one of his best habits is never take no. You should see him negotiate with my children. He gets my kids to do some things like they wouldn't normally do. So just committing and figuring out and being persistent, patience, persistence, but willing to walk away, I think is one of Josh's strengths. Josh, do you mind if I wrap this up and just give a recap of everything you said?
Let's do it.
'Cause I've taken a bunch of notes. So I'm gonna really say this again because it's important. Activity versus accomplishment. That's so important. Time is worth more. MWA, minimum wage activities. I love the thing when you said about certainty of outcome. It's important, certainty of outcome. There is no certainty of outcome. Really figure out what your why is and then go out and see how you can make it happen. Josh took a leap from going from Michigan to San Diego to St. Augustine, now to Knoxville, Tennessee. In 4 years, he's gone to all those states. Is there certainty of outcome? Absolutely not. Are things changing in his life? No. But he's continuing to grow and continuing to get out of his comfort zone, and he's actually learning, and he's having a great time. The other one is, do, document, and delegate. Those three are really important steps. Practice what you preach. And ultimately, I think life in general is a marathon. It's not a sprint. We want to have, success so quickly. And what happens when somebody makes money or has success real quick? They end up sort of losing it because they don't know how they got it. They might have gotten lucky. Look at what's happened in the last couple of years in real estate or in the stock market. A lot of people have made a lot of money quickly and they haven't taken their lumps and they haven't gotten their education. They're in the process of losing a lot of that. So for us, thinking about life in multifamily real estate as a marathon, not a sprint, is really important. Josh, you want to add anything to that?
I think you hit the nail on the head with all that. And there's a lot of principles that if you apply to your life, it's going to help accelerate results, and live up to your full potential. So I really like that formula.
Josh, how can the listeners get a hold of you?
Yeah, feel free to reach out to me. So I'll give you 2 things. One, my office number is 865-320-0655. So that rings directly to my cell phone. You can text me, you can call me. Another way is my email. So it's josh@jakeandgino.com. Feel free to email me as well.
I want to thank Mr. Rosen for being an amazing guest on today's show and for sharing his Movers and Shakers story, because it's been an amazing story. It's been an amazing journey. Now, if you want to be the next Movers and Shakers guest, email us at josh@jakeandgino.com. Now, if you like the show, please leave us a review. Until next time, let's all make it a Movers and Shakers week. See you, Josh.
See you, everybody.